a teenage film snob, baby. I was a teenage film snob, baby.
Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob. It has been a minute, but it is a Pod Squad show. I need people to talk to, guys. It can't just be me all the time. And as lovely as guests are, we've got to have some consistency. That makes the world go round. So we are bringing back just an absolute sweetheart of a guy. You know him. An absolute staple of the show. Welcome back to the show, Nick Owen. Hey, bud. How you going?
J Money, always great to be with you.
Money, Jesus Christ.
It is always fantastic to come back on the pod. 2 out of the 3 ain't bad, as they say.
Yeah, no Maddie this week. Maddie's, as we talked about, I think on the first show back this year, Maddie's workload has changed significantly. She's, as I think we've talked about, she's a teacher and she's looking after Year 12 seniors, to those of you in America. So it's a pretty demanding old task, and we kind of negotiated. We kind of talked very early on before we came back that we would give her all the room she needed to do the job that pays, as opposed to this, which is unpaid at this stage. But watch this space.
Wait, Maddie's not getting paid? Now I feel bad.
Oh man,
we do it for the love, don't we?
We do it for the love. We've had a couple of nice hits lately, a couple of like spikes in the downloads, which has been nice. I think some industry interviews certainly hasn't hurt our chances either. We had Lauren Alina on a few weeks ago, who's playing Harley Quinn. That was a fun episode, and people seem to dig that. And just this morning, I had an interview with J.R. Stokes, who directed this wonderful film called Beautiful Pam, which has debuted quite nicely. So, yeah, it's always good when people come around and check it out. Hopefully they like it. But even the people who write horrible things, they don't realize they're boosting our engagement, so have at it.
Bring it on.
Yeah. I had someone on YouTube the other day accuse me of stealing content from someone else's channel, and I was like, I've never watched one of their videos ever, because I like, as you know, and as a few people know, I'm rewatching every Marvel film available to me. Oh my god, what an arduous task it's become. I love it, but it's a lot. And someone was like, did you copy these people? It feels like you're stealing from them because even the name of it's the same. And I was like, I think maybe more than one person in the world is rewatching Marvel films before Doomsday. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. But it could just be me and this other channel. So if that's the case, I can't remember what they're called now. I don't watch them. They didn't accuse me for some angry white dude, because it's always angry white dudes.
It is always an angry white dude, isn't it?
No one, contributing to society took the time to complain. So it is what it is. It is nice to see you, my friend. It's been a minute since we've shared some time together.
It has. I was trying to think actually when our last, like we chat all the time.
Yes.
But what was our last recording? Oh,
it'd have been the best of 2025.
Yeah, it can't have been that long because Maddie and I talked about Project Hail Mary.
That was on that episode.
Yeah, at the time you hadn't seen. I don't know if you.
I haven't seen it still. I was going to try and get out. It was right before the Easter weekend. So we recorded. And then that weekend, I took Zoe to go and see Super Mario Galaxy, which is really fun, despite what all the critics are saying. And then I said I would try and see Project Hail Mary on the Monday because we had the house to ourselves. Well, we had Leo, but Leo's baby. But just didn't get there. Ironically, next weekend, or by the time this drops out this weekend, I will be taking Zoe to see Mario again. Because she asked me, she goes, can we see Mario again? I was like, yeah. Absolutely. I'm in full support of seeing movies multiple times in the theaters, but we're going to go to the cheap cinema this time. But yes, absolutely we can. So that would be the last time we recorded. We might have caught up. I think we might have done a dinner or something, you and I, since then. Maybe not. That was Easter. It was only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know if we have. I don't know. What, as we were just saying, time, what does that even mean anymore?
Time is goddamn insane, man. I still haven't stopped. You know what? We haven't, because we had two. I have 2 Easters. We have white people Easter and then Greek Easter, which is far more exciting. And then Tina and I got really sick, and then I had a bunch of work stuff in the city, and I was just telling you about that this morning. So this morning, oh no, I've lost all track of time.
Did you enjoy spending time in the city for work? Because I have to say, I'll just preface my question with a statement. Like, I used to work full time in the city in a previous job, and now I commute by car. I work Bayside, which is nice. Like the areas I work are nice, but there is definitely something about the city that I think it makes work feel a little bit easier. You're like commuting in with everyone else. You feel like you're really part of the work mob, and I do miss that because like I've got a fairly long commute, about an hour to get down to one of the work locations, and you're just in the car by yourself in the morning. It's not a great way to get hyped up for work.
So I went in. I'll kind of keep it vague because I don't really talk about work on the show. But I went in to basically do some upskilling. So I went to like a short course in the city. So it was a nice change of pace. So they actually asked me, like when my work said, "Oh, we want to send you to a course," they were like, "Do you want to do it online from home, or do you want to go into the city?" And this was back before Leo was born. This is last year. And I was like, because like you're going to have a new baby. I was like, no, I said I'd like to do it in the city. I was like, I think if I was working in the city, I would say work from home. But because I work from home every day, I think just to mix it up and to get out of the house, just break the routine. So yeah, it was nice to be in a room with new people, and lunch was paid for, and they had like all these great like little like morning and afternoon teas. And I know I've been on a health kick, but like those days, I was like, I don't care. Like I'm gonna join in and kind of eat what the people eat, like not worry about my deficit and stuff too much. Plus, like I'd taken the train in a week earlier to take Zoe to the movies, and it's free public transport at the time in Melbourne. And there's all the new stations, which I haven't been to because I haven't taken the train in probably a couple of years. So there's all those kind of elements, which are kind of fun. Plus, I got to walk around the city. I do like an early morning walk from what station did I get off? I guess I got off at like not State Library, Town Hall, I think it was, and then I'd walk all the way down to Spencer Street, which is actually quite a long walk, but the weather was nice, and it was the morning, it was fresh air, it was just nice before work to kind of get a little bit of exercise in that wasn't just me like running on the spot in my garage. So yeah, those elements were really nice. I have worked in the city as well. I hated it when I did it. I liked it when I first started, but I was ending up spending like 12 to 14 hours a day not at home. And I hated that element of it. So it was nice to break up the routine, but I wouldn't want it to be a regular thing. I like working from home. I like being close to my kids and my wife. And although that being said, it was nice to kind of catch the train to Melbourne Central on the way home and go check out JB and see if there are any new releases, which there never were, because I don't know what happened with that particular JB, but they just weren't stocking new releases on the day they were supposed to come out. So, but I got them in the end.
Yeah, but that is an interesting and we will get on to the topic of the podcast soon, I'm sure. But that is an interesting difference, though, just generationally. Like, my parents wouldn't have worked a day from home in their life.
Yeah.
We didn't see them during the week. Like, when I was really young in like primary school, I'd be at before school care and then after school care. They'd pick you up at like 6 p.m. You'd come home, have dinner, and then you'd be like going to bed soon after. But I think about my brother who's got a toddler now, and he works from home a lot of the time as well. It's just that incidental, really nice quality time that parents are getting now. And you're working from home, yes, but there's those little micro interactions you would be having, which is just a nice little thing, isn't it?
100%. I talk about it a lot at work because people will ask me, like, especially with newer staff, when I interact with new staff, they'll ask me like why I like working from home or what I like about the company and stuff like that. And like obviously every workplace is different. I'm very lucky. Like between my role is very different from most people at my work, but also I just happen to work for a very generous company. As you know, I traveled to Scotland for 6 months and they let me work from there. Most companies would not let that happen. But like I talk about COVID and stuff like that. COVID was obviously this devastating time for a lot of people. I was one of the few people who probably didn't have that experience because my daughter was born in COVID. And so for like the first 2 years, it's kind of this little micro unit, just the three of us. And, I got to see her first steps and hear her first words. I was there for everything. Like I know like a lot of parents miss that because even when they think they're seeing it, often like daycare is seen at first, that sort of thing, because they're just around their kids more. So yeah, I do talk about that, and my dad was a chef for most of my young life, so he was working evenings and weekends. I would see my mum obviously and stuff like that, but it wasn't like I would talk about like my most treasured memory. One of my favorite memories with my dad was a day that we were both sick. He was homesick from work, I was homesick from school, and all we did was sit around and watch cartoons. That was the first time I really like hung out with my dad because like he had no choice but to stop. So yeah, it's a very different world. Like now, the work from home. You know, obviously with my dad being a chef, you can't do that job working from home. So so it wouldn't have made much difference for him. But yeah, I love it. So. But I do like getting out to the city. I'm getting out to the city in a couple of weeks because I'll be going to the Mortal Kombat premiere. So
sick!
I'm very excited for that. They're and they're doing a different location. I won't reveal the location until afterwards, otherwise they might get bombarded. But it's not one of the locations I've been to before. They've actually got a different location. So
okay,
so we can all have a fight, you know, out the front.
I'm looking forward to hearing what you hearing your review.
Oh man, I cannot wait. I'm going to put all my Mortal Kombat DVDs and Blu-rays on the shelf, even the animated ones. I'm just going to do a huge binge, I think, next week to get ready for it. I might have to stop the Marvel stuff for a minute. I'm about to start Phase 5. I literally put on Ant-Man Quantumania just before, 2 minutes in, and everyone came home, and I was like, all right, I guess tonight is when I start. Speaking of movies, we have a movie podcast. Have you been watching any movies? I feel like we haven't really spoken about movies much since. We've just talking about something else, which we're going to talk about soon. But I know Project Hail Mary, I think, was the last movie you kind of told me you watched.
Yeah, no, I haven't really caught anything new, like new release, since we last caught up. But I have been, it's been a bit of a flat spot for new release movies that have been accessible just with with the streaming services I've got. And likewise with TV, I've watched a couple of shows here and there. So I've actually been taking the flat spot to go back and either watch some older stuff I've never seen or rewatch some stuff that I know is good and I wanted a refresh on. So I thought I could talk about a couple of them. But the first one that I wanted to talk about, and I can't believe I hadn't seen this, is a 1985 film, I want to say, called Witness, starring Harrison Ford and Kelly McGinnis.
I've never seen it either, but I saw it come up on someone's Instagram recently. I was like, how have I not seen this? So I went through
it's really, really good. It's the premise sounds like it's going to be almost like a comedy because essentially Harrison Ford plays a detective and he has to go into hiding in like an Amish community and hilarity ensues. But no, it's actually really good. Police, I guess it's more of like a witness protection. It's not really a procedural in the sense that he's investigating. But the performances are great. Kelly McGinnis is great. I always just thought she was like a one-hit wonder with Top Gun, but she's really fantastic in it. Nice. She plays the mother of a kid who witnesses a murder right at the start of the film, and so Harrison Ford is investigating and then gets caught up in the crime, and then they have to go into hiding. So that's where they sort of go back to this Amish community, but it's not too long. It's very, very sort of tight and sharp. So would definitely recommend.
Yeah, great.
And the other one, fast forward about a decade, I think it's mid-90s, was A Time to Kill, which has Samuel L. Jackson, Matthew McConaughey. Have you've seen A Time to Kill?
No, but it's another one's on my list where I'm like, how have I not seen this one? But yes, I think I've got it in a pre-order bin on like one of my many import websites, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
It is really fantastic. I'll keep plot. I know it's a 30-year-old film at this point, but I'll keep the plot points to a minimum. But basically, Matthew McConaughey plays a lawyer. It's set in I think Mississippi, Louisiana, somewhere in the South, and he ends up defending Samuel L. Jackson for a crime. Really, really good. Really, really good.
Nice.
Would definitely recommend. So,
is it set in the present day in terms of the 90s, or is it like a period piece? Because there's like a whole string of like, it's such a weird genre to talk about. There's this whole string of like African American men accused of murder in the Deep South films that are just really great, like 12 Angry Men, To Kill a Mockingbird, and Time to Kill. Like, it's a weird genre to be a fan of, but I do like those movies. Like,
it is, and like I don't know,
Green Mile. Like there's another one.
do you know anything about A Time to Kill? Like, do you know what the plot is?
I think
like,
someone spoiled it for me like years ago, but it was so long ago. The spoiler has like healed over in my memory. So
yeah. So this one's got an interesting take on that genre you were just talking about, which is like a black man accused of a crime, and I won't spoil what it's not a twist, but I won't spoil what the take is. But yeah, no, excellent film.
Nice.
And then I just give a shout out to one of my favorite shows, which returned for its 5th season a couple of weeks ago, which is For All Mankind, which is one of those shows.
That show's still going.
Yes,
it's an Apple TV show. Yeah,
it is. Thank God they have more cash than sense, because on any other streaming service, this show would have been cancelled. I don't really know anyone else who watches it.
It's I know about it because I think it's Chantel Van Santen is in it, and I think she plays one of the wives. But she was Becca in The Boys. So Butcher's wife that got, spoilers, killed by Homelander. And she was also in The Flash season 2, and like she's a great actress. Like, I really dig her performances and stuff like that. But I remember seeing her talking about that show years ago, like when The Boys first debuted. So I didn't realize it was still going.
Yeah.
It's
just such a great premise. I mean, if you like sci-fi, and not just science fiction, but if you like science and space exploration, what that show has become from where it started is just an incredible arc, because to give you like a high level overview, each series jumps forward about a decade.
Okay.
And we start in the 60s during the space race, first, who can get a first person on the moon, the USSR or America. And it's an alternate history. So in that first season, it's not a spoiler, it happens right at the start. Russia land the first person on the moon.
Oh, wow.
And it kicks off this alternate history. So the second one is about putting a base on the moon. Series 3 is about getting a man on Mars, and so on and so forth. So just the scope of this show, as my phone rings, apologies.
That's okay.
The scope of this show, from being in season 1, you're watching this like show set in the 60s with no computation, and to where it is now, whereas literally we've got bases on Mars and it's very high tech. It's very, very cool if you're into that kind of thing, which doesn't seem like many people are.
So wait, you said the third season they're colonizing Mars?
Yeah.
So that's the 80s, if I'm doing my maths correctly, which means it sounds like this is a prequel to Total Recall. That's the only way I can rationalize it.
Actually, I did see a woman with 3 breasts the other day, so while watching.
I rewatched that last year, Total Recall. Man, is that flick just brilliant. It's so good.
There's like one of my favorite memes from that's been like used for other things, is just like when they're carrying him and he's just like, what's going on? Yeah. What the fuck did I do wrong?
80s and 90s Arnie is just like top tier.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been watching.
Nice.
What about yourself?
I've been watching a ton of stuff. I've just got my Letterboxd app open. So I'm closing in on 190 films for the year. I watched a couple of things. I won't go into all of them, obviously, because I'll just talk about a few flicks I watched. I watched a movie from a couple of years ago called Tick, Tick, Boom, the Andrew Garfield one about the guy who wrote the musical Rent. I didn't really have any interest at the time because I wasn't familiar with the musical. But the other night, I was just like, I really want to just watch something with Andrew Garfield. I was in a real Andrew Garfield mood. And I'd heard his performance is great, and that was really fascinating, like not knowing anything about the guy and like kind of the tragedy of kind of what he went through in his life. But also, it's interesting, like I was trying to explain it to Tina, where it's like he plays this insufferable genius, but I don't know if it's because it's Andrew Garfield playing him, or if he's just the kind of insufferable genius who's just likable enough that he gets away with it. Like, it's the complete opposite of Jesse Eisenberg in The Social Network. Like, so Jesse Eisenberg, you're like, oh, I get why no one likes you. Like, you're the hero of this story, and you're the villain. But in this, like, even though he does all the wrong things and says the wrong things, you still kind of root for him. So the film itself is fine, but just for the performance alone, I think it's definitely worth watching. I watched The Roses, Olivia Colman, Benedict Cumberbatch. I think I messaged you about that. I sent a couple of messages into the chat over the last few weeks telling you what I was watching. Because I'd seen a couple of clips online of like Olivia Colman swearing, which is just, if you're ever having a bad day, just like look up Olivia Colman cursing in videos, and it'll just bring a smile to your face. I knew nothing about it. I knew it was based on War of the Roses, but I've never read it or seen the original film. But basically, it's about this couple whose romance kind of begins in a really whimsical, nonsensical way, where like he's this like kind of up and coming architect and she's this ambitious chef, and both of them are kind of like being held back by unimaginative superiors. So like he wants to create all these wonderful buildings, but they're like, no, keep it like in a rectangle. And she wants to do all these like fascinating, like these really cool experimental things with food, and they're like, just do what's in the menu. And then like he storms off from like a meeting at this restaurant and happens to like meet her in the back room of the same restaurant, and they end up sleeping together like after 5 minutes after meeting, and then they're suddenly this married couple with kids and stuff like that. And what basically happens is, once they got married, she moved away from her dream of being a chef so that she could raise kids, while he kind of pursued this kind of architectural career, and was now kind of getting the career he wanted, where he was making really interesting buildings and stuff like that. And then there's this unfortunate accident, pardon me, that causes one of his buildings to, this is like all in the first 15 minutes, so it's not a spoiler, that causes him to lose his job. Right at the same time, like, she finally gets discovered. She's kind of like working casually in this restaurant, and she gets discovered in the same storm that destroyed the building. So they're suddenly forced to have this role reversal. Now he's the stay-at-home parent, and she's living the dream she wants. And like just watching the resentment build, having lost everything, and seeing the person you love succeed, and you want to support them, but you have to put all your dreams on hold, even though she put, like, it's just this fascinating dichotomy. And even though they're so horrible to each other and like they're so hateful, like there's something very charming about it at the same time. The only thing I wasn't 100% on board with, just because it caught me off guard, was the ending, and I won't spoil it if anyone hasn't seen it. The way that the movie ends kind of felt like they're like, we don't know how to resolve this, we're just going to do this, and that's going to get us to the credits. Not a bad ending, just felt a little bit off-brand for everything else going on. But it's really witty and silly, and 100% is a rom-com. It's about this couple kind of slowly falling out of love as opposed to falling in love. So I really liked it. I thought it was really good. And like, it's just chock full of great performances, but like those two together, like just dynamite chemistry and like just wonderful performances. And I think we always think of Benedict Cumberbatch as being like kind of this top tier actor, and he absolutely is. But it almost feels like he was like constantly working to hold his own against Olivia Colman, because she is also wonderful, but I think people don't necessarily think of her in the same level of brilliance. They're like, oh, she's wacky and silly, but it's like, no, this chick is like incredible. Just, she often takes very silly roles and stuff like that. But I also kind of like, in my own headcanon, I'm like, it's kind of a spin-off of The Bear, because she was this wonderful chef in The Bear as well. But so The Roses, I would really recommend.
Her pop-up in The Bear is just so random, isn't it? Just like all of a sudden she's just the owner of that, I forget, whatever restaurant.
Yeah, it's the one that they use, that both Kami and Richie end up training in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, because I haven't really seen anything with Olivia Colman or Benny Cumberbatch in recently, it kind of feels like they've both been sort of hibernating in the last couple of years. I don't know if there's just been stuff that has come and gone and I haven't really seen it, but it kind of feels like I haven't really heard much since the second Doctor Strange film, and Olivia Colman's always just hopping in and out of smaller stuff. Like she had a little cameo in season 2 of The Night Manager.
Okay.
But I'm interested to see. I love both of them individually, so I would imagine that together they're equally as good.
Yeah, I think also Olivia Colman, like, she constantly, like, she's one of those few Hollywood, like, because now she's considered a Hollywood actress. Like, she's post Oscar win. Most people feel like that's when performers get really, they either get really picky or they're like, let's just do the money makers, let's just do the big tentpole ones. Like, but she's still going back to TV and like doing a lot of BBC stuff as well, I think. So like, it's very much like, I think she still lives in the UK, so I think for her it's like, I'd rather be at home, close to home, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's really great. I really dug it. I watched Rental Family. These are all on Disney Plus. I just like kind of been working through some Disney Plus films, like some newer ones, which is the Brendan Fraser movie. So I almost went and saw this New Year's Day, actually. It was either that or Housemaid, and I was like, I just want something like dumb. Like, Rental Family looks like it's gonna be a little bit kind of heavier, and it is. So I think I made the right choice. But it's a wonderful movie. It's about this older guy who moved to Japan 10, 15 years ago to pursue an acting career. Like, he booked a commercial, and it's one of those like almost like Mr. Sparkle in The Simpsons. Like, is that kind of crazy type of commercial where like he plays a superhero who encourages people to brush their teeth? Like, but he never really broke beyond that. But he was like, well, I'm happy in Japan. Like, I can, like, no one knows who I am. I can kind of make money doing silly things and stuff like that. And then he gets this opportunity to join what's called a rental family company. And I looked this up. This is real. Apparently in Japan, they have these companies where basically if you have an event and you need to fill seats, you can hire people to come and attend. So it's like, if you need to make your business function look more populated, if you need attendees at a funeral, like all these sorts of things, you actually pay to hire people. And so like he gets this offer and he's like, oh, I don't know, it feels a bit weird. And like, they're like, why don't you just do a job, see how you feel? And the first job is to pose as the groom at a wedding. And he's like, I don't know, man, this feels weird. Like, I'm lying to people. Like, her parents think we're getting married, but we're not. Like, and the whole time you're kind of sitting there, you're like, this is weird. Like, I felt really uncomfortable. I was like, yeah, like, what's going on? And then after the wedding's over and everyone goes home, like, he's talking to his bride, who he's not really married to, and they're having a chat. And then a woman walks in, and it turns out they're in a same-sex relationship, but her family wouldn't approve of that, and like based on kind of some of the cultural norms in Japan, at least in this version of Japan, it's frowned upon. So they're like, well, I'm gonna get married. My parents are gonna think it's to a man, and we're gonna move to Canada, and they're gonna be happy with kind of the outcome here. But now I can live my best life and live in happiness. And it's kind of in that moment where you're like, oh, I can see how this service can be used to make people happy. So then he like starts this journey. And like, it's fascinating. Like, he gets hired by a woman to go and interview her father. Her father was a filmmaker when he was younger, but now he's old and like he doesn't work anymore. And he feels like people have forgotten him as an artist and he's not relevant anymore. So she pays him to pose as a journalist and interview him about his career and stuff like that. But they just strike this really wonderful friendship. And I think he kind of figures out that Brendan Fraser is not who he says he is, but he doesn't care because he feels relevant again because someone's paying attention to him. But the really tough one is like, he gets hired to pose as the father of a little girl. So there's a little girl who's never known her dad. He, like, whoever her dad really was, abandoned her as a child. And so she's been living with a single mum. But now she has this opportunity to get into this like really prestigious school. But like, they like to kind of to hedge their bets, like she should come from a nuclear family, like all these kind of weird like things. So he goes in and like has to lie to this girl. It's like, yeah, I'm your dad, I'm so sorry, like I never wanted to leave you. And they kind of like, it starts off her obviously resenting him, but slowly over the course of him like building this relationship and falling in love with him as her dad and stuff like that. And without giving away what happens, obviously the dominoes there are set to fall. Like, there's no way that can end well. And it's just this really beautiful movie about like finding your purpose in a variation of what you thought your career was going to be and how that can impact people. And like, Brendan Fraser is the perfect dude for the role. Like, it's just so charming and sweet and yes, heartbreaking, but yeah, really wonderful. So I really dug that one as well.
Yeah, I've seen the tile pop up on Disney, and it's the one where like he's got the little girl over his shoulder, right? I think, yeah. And I was like, oh, what is this movie? Because I had not heard one thing about this movie, until you just reviewed it right then.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I really, I'm really enjoying this this kind of Brendan Fraser renaissance. Like now he's back and he's doing all these really interesting roles, and stuff like that.
Will I be a soppy mess if I watch that film?
I mean, it's hard for me to kind of judge that because I cry in pretty much everything, and I definitely cried in that movie. I think you would probably get at least a little bit misty-eyed with the father-daughter storyline for sure, unless you're a heartless robot.
Well, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Without notice, we talk around the bear a lot, and you just mentioned it before. I just was like, give me a quick temperature check on. Are you up to date? Are you through to end of season 3?
Isn't it season 4?
Oh, season 4.
Yes, I'm up to date. So the last thing I saw was an episode where Kami, Richie, and I'm blanking on the girl's name. Oh my god, what's her name? The sous chef. Or? No, the sous chef.
Oh.
Io Edibiri. Yeah, Io Edibiri's character. They're like outside the restaurant after like a crazy week, and Kami makes a big announcement, and the whole episode. Okay, cool. So I'm up to date then. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to keep it like spoiler free for those listening as well. Yeah.
Because I was late to the bear. Like I think it was into its 3rd season when I started watching it. I think I just knew I had it on the shelf. Kind of like everyone was talking about what a classic show it is, so I just had it in my back pocket to get through. And then I was blown away by season 1, and then I thought season 2 was even better. I thought it was an excellent season, and culminating in like what I think was just an electric bit of TV, which was just the let it rip moment when they're about to open and AC/DC is cranking and they just open the door, and it was just electric. But I have to say that towards the end of season 3 and then through season 4, I felt like the propulsion of the show slowed down a lot and it became a lot more meditative. And I think I just got a little bit bored watching it, to be honest. It sort of felt like less the plot was the plot was a secondary consideration.
Yeah, I think we have talked about this to a certain extent. 3 definitely dips for me as well. I liked it, but it felt I was the same. Where I'm like, the first 2 seasons are so frantic. Like, you've got 2 of the best episodes of TV, I would argue, in history, with the one where all the ticket machine stops working. Like, that is like, it's called like 43 minutes on that. Like, that episode, like, gave me PTSD because I've worked in kitchens where that's happened. And then obviously the 7 fishes or whatever it is, that the Thanksgiving, is it a Thanksgiving episode or the one with Jamie Lee Curtis, like the dinner?
That is just a panic attack in an episode for me. I can't. I don't think I ever want to watch that again. But I would argue Spoons is up there as well as one of the great episodes.
Yes,
which is when Richie stages at the restaurant we were talking about.
I agree. Yeah. Also, is that the same episode? No, I think it's a different episode where Richie works with Will Poulter. Yeah. But by the way, another great cameo in that show. I think 3 and 4 probably could have been one season. I think you could have like fit the storylines. However, there are some wonderful moments in season. I think season 4 is a bit of a correction. I like season 4 more than season 3, but it does feel like it could have been a final season, like especially with what happened between Kami and his mum. Like that episode where, and spoilers if you haven't watched The Bear, where he cooks for his mother at home. Like maybe one of the most beautiful things they've done on that show, only to be sent up moments later by Richie recreating the snow for the girl in remission. Like those two, like that 1-2 punch of like beautiful moments. I was like, I don't know if we need more. I think like we could end it there. Like he set out to kind of honor his brother's name and like keep the restaurant afloat and kind of bring his family back together. And it kind of feels like he's done that. Like, yeah, there's some unresolved stuff with him and Richie, which could be resolved in a scene, to be honest. Like, they just need to both admit they were wrong and they'll be fine. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm still here for it for the characters. Like, as long as they keep, and like we're going to talk about a TV show today in a moment, I'm sure, where the strongest point of that show is the characters. Like, for me, it's like, if you can keep telling me, like, the show we're going to talk about today, it's so funny because there's a bit of a mirror there as well. Like, season 1 and 2 of The Bear is so strong. I defy anyone to come up with something as good for a season 3 or season 4. Like, it's just so strong. The fact that you gave us not 1 but 2, I would argue, perfect seasons of a TV show of that caliber. Just keep delivering great character moments, and I'll keep watching. It's when the characters, you know, start to become kind of hollow shells of themselves, and there's no propulsion. That's when I start to lose interest. And one of the reasons why I don't watch a lot of TV, because I'm just like, oh my god, like, it's such an investment. Like, I think Game of Thrones is a perfect example. Like, where I love the first 6 seasons. Even season 6, I know people complained about, like, it kind of moving a bit quicker, and like suddenly they got into places overnight. I'm like, look, we're 6 seasons in, they can jump ahead a little bit, it's fine. But season 7, like, I've only seen once. I haven't gone back to watch it. And was it season 7 or season 8? How many seasons are there of Game of Thrones? There's 7. Okay, season 7 I like. Season 8 is the one I've only watched once, the final season, because then you just start to see characters make decisions that they would never have made in previous seasons. Like, that's what lost me more than the direction of the show. Like, say what you like, Bran the Broken is like, whatever. Like, it's a weird decision. Like, but that's not what. But it's like, I know Daenerys was always going to be a difficult leader, and she had these moments of self-destruction throughout the show. But I would argue that wasn't enough to justify her actions in the final season. That seemed like a pretty big left turn still. Like, she kind of went full Targaryen for the sake of the showrunners being like, oh, we got a Star Wars movie to make. Like, that's kind of what it felt like. And then they lost that Star Wars movie. Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Game of Thrones.
No.
We've done that. You can go look up our old podcast if you want to hear that.
Yeah, we were meant to talk about The Office, and we ended up talking about Game of Thrones every week instead. I'm going to very quickly pimp one more movie, and then we're going to have to dive into it. This morning, there's a brand new movie on Disney+. So I think it had like a limited release earlier this year. But this weekend, it just came up on Disney+, and I was really looking forward to it. It's called Is This Thing On? It's a Will Arnett flick. Directed by your good friend, Bradley Cooper. I know you love a Bradley Cooper film. And I was reading this morning, apparently it's the only flick he's made that hasn't received an Oscar nom. But I loved it. I was really looking forward to it. I love any movie about the world of stand-up comedy, and this is loosely based on the story of a British comedian called John Bishop, who basically didn't start stand-up comedy until he was in his mid-30s, following the divorce of his wife. So Will Arnett is married to Laura Dern in this film. In the start of the movie, they decide they're going to cash in their chips. They're done. Like, they're not going to continue with their marriage. And as a coping mechanism, he goes out to drink one night, and it's $15 entry, but he doesn't have any cash on him. And they're like, well, if you're a performer, you don't have to pay. So he goes and does a stand-up set just so he doesn't have to pay. And it kind of becomes this therapy for him, where he kind of starts... He's not telling jokes, he's just telling stories from his life, but people really resonate with him because there is this kind of weird, morbid sense of humor kind of laid in there. And then he kind of throughout the course of the film realizes that, oh, hey, I kind of love this. Like, I never knew I wanted to do this when I was younger, but now that I am doing it, I think I'm good at it. And I really like doing this. And it's a very kind of more... I don't use the word cerebral because I use that word a lot. But it's a very patient kind of thought piece. It's not just about like, it's less about the story of a guy on his rise to a career and more about like, how do you process what you've lost? And once you have processed it, is there room for growth and redemption and stuff like that? And it's just a wonderful movie. I dug it. I had such a good time with it. Cried again, of course. There's a moment towards the end where, you know, I won't spoil what happens, but something happens, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, yep, I knew I was going to cry, and I have. So I'm so glad that a movie I was looking forward to for so long did not let me down. But yeah, really dug. Bradley Cooper's in it. Plays a really annoying character. Like, he plays like this like theater friend of theirs who's like trying to get into like film and stuff. And like whenever something happens, he's like just blames the process. Like in the very first scene, he comes in like with like all these groceries and he trips over and spills this milk. He's like, "Sorry, like my character would have done that." So like it's I'm always half in the role. And it's like shut up, dude. But
yeah, I mean, I'm interested in seeing it because I do really like the films Bradley Cooper's directed, but I think it's a good move for him to do something a little smaller, and I think you could smell the desperation on him when he was doing Maestro to be seen as a visionary. Like it was just, it just felt like he was trying a little bit too hard with, you know, the way that film was directed and presented in the, I don't know formats, but it was the square format that, rather than widescreen, and this oneer of him conducting an orchestra because he was playing a conductor, Leonard Bernstein.
Yeah.
So you could just kind of, it was just like, please, like, love me, Academy Award. So it's cool that he's done like a little, almost like an indie. It feels like, So
Definitely
I should check that one out too.
Yeah, I really dug it. Like, and it's 2 hours, but it doesn't feel like it. I feel like it's not necessarily fast paced, but it's just you enjoy sitting with the characters and like kind of going through the experience with them for sure. And while I was watching that this morning, I also discovered that A Complete Unknown is also on Disney. So I'm going to try and watch that before we next record, because you were giving it such praise in our last episode. So I don't know. I'm going to do some Marvel stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to fall behind. So I'm going to catch up on a few of those. And then I'm going to do my Mortal Kombat stuff. And then I'll probably dive into Complete Unknown because I want to check it out. So
yeah, I read somewhere that the Doomsday trailer is going to drop pretty soon.
Yeah, well, CinemaCon happened in the last week, and a few like trailer details have dropped out. Like I've read it, like wasn't hunting them down, but they just some of them are a bit unavoidable. But yeah, there's another. I think it's in Mexico. C2E2 is on this week, which is another cinema convention, like another convention. So it's possible it's going to drop on the 26th of April, American time, which is tomorrow. That's the first date they're expecting. The other kind of hotly contended date is July, because for the first time in years, Marvel is going back to San Diego Comic-Con where they do most of their big announcements. So I think it's probably going to be July. Like they tend to wait until about 6 months beforehand. It feels like April might be a bit too soon, but I hope we get some footage soon. They've done those 4 mini trailers over Christmas, but I'd love a proper trailer, like to see some stuff. But
I'm so intrigued. Like obviously the two big castings in this are not new, but like obviously Robert Downey Jr. playing Victor Von Doom and Chris Evans.
Steve Rogers.
Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Might have mixed up his character and his actor name, being back. And I'm just so intrigued how both are going to work from like the plot mechanics. Like what story mechanism or like what lever will they pull from like time travel to different dimensions? Like what plot lever are they going to pull to have Captain America come back, or Steve Rogers, whether it will be Captain America is not, I don't know if he will, but and then also just like, is there going to be any sort of link between Victor Von Doom and Tony Stark, or do we just sort of like accept that the same actor is playing two different characters?
I don't think time travel is going to come into it. Other than what the time travel that already occurred in Avengers Endgame. So I think it's going to be purely multiverse. I've heard a couple of like theories. So the theory is that Victor Von Doom is kind of posing as a hero, trying to stop these incursions, which we learned about in Multiverse of Madness, the incursion, the idea that like universes can collide, and that an incursion has been created by Steve Rogers. Like that's kind of the theory, because at the end of Endgame, he didn't come home. He went into another time. He branched the timeline before we even knew about it and stayed with Peggy, and that wasn't supposed to happen. So I think like the idea is that he's created unwillingly the events of Doomsday. And so Victor Von Doom is kind of posing as a hero, trying to get all these teams to stop the incursion, but really he wants the incursion to happen because then it's going to create a new world that he can run himself. That's kind of like the theory I've heard, which is stuff that's happened in the comics before. There's this world called Battle World that was created by a different character, but basically it was kind of an amalgamation of all the different universes and was kind of chaotic and stuff like that. So that's kind of the major theory going on. Apparently, in the trailer, we don't see Doom's face, and Robert Downey Jr. is using an accent. He's doing a more European-style accent and stuff like that, which I got full faith in. Like, I know a lot of people only know him as Iron Man, but this is the dude who like got an Academy Award for Oppenheimer. Like, this is the dude who played Charlie Chaplin, and he's done so many things. Like, yes, most people know him as Tony Stark, but he's a really good actor. Like, he's definitely got the chops to do something different. And if they're going to keep his face covered up most of the time, probably going to help us a lot as well, like doing that. I'm looking forward to seeing the X-Men kind of, because it's our X-Men, it's the X-Men from the 2000s, like interact with, you know, kind of the modern Marvel heroes, and then obviously the Fantastic Four and the Thunderbolts and stuff like that coming in. I'm really excited. I've never been one of those people, like, you know me, I've like since day one, I've been like, yep, whatever they do, I'm on board with. Like, I'm the guy who's defended Thor: Love and Thunder and She-Hulk, and, you know, I'm about to watch Ant-Man Quantumania, and I'm sure I'm going to defend that again. Like, I have enjoyed everything they've put out. I think bringing the Russos back is a smart move. They have collectively made the top percentage of the best Marvel films: Captain America, Winter Soldier, Infinity War, and Endgame. I know people have mixed feelings on Civil War. I really like it.
I love Civil War. I will not hear a bad word against Civil War.
Some people have got to feel like it's a little bit too much of an Avengers film, which is like, great.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah,
oh no.
We've
got a bonus Avengers film. You know, I think that, so 4 strong hitters, and then the 2 guys who wrote it, they're not both back for this film, but one of the guy who's writing this film wrote all of those movies and Captain America: First Avenger. Like, there's a reason why the Red Skull shows up in Endgame and Infinity Wars, because the guy who wrote the first movie with Red Skull always wanted him to come back. Like, he planted that thread long ago. So I think it's a really clever writing team. It's a really clever directing team. Is Robert Downey Jr. mostly stunt casting and a PR stunt? Maybe. But also, we're dealing with the multiverse. Isn't the whole idea that people can look like anything? Like, people have been complaining since the multiverse that there's not enough multiversal stuff going on. This is the most multiversal thing you can do. And of course, people like are upset. I'm like, I'm all in, you know, like you know, if I get let down, I get let down, but they've done nothing to kind of sway my faith. Like, at the very least, the creative team behind this film, like, even if you don't like the other movies since Endgame, that's fine. The creative team who made Infinity War and Endgame are making this. They've done nothing to suggest the ball has been dropped, so I'm on board.
Speaking of Robert Downey Jr., sorry, I forgot to mention one other thing I'd gone back and rewatched recently, which was Guy Ritchie's 2 Sherlock Holmes films, where Robert Downey Jr. plays Sherlock Holmes and Jude Law plays Dr. Watson.
Great movies.
It made me remember. Do you remember, like, this is going back probably more than 10 years, when we would have been doing some sort of top 5 list, and I ranked the Sherlock Holmes
Game of Shadows in your top 5 movies. And I remember saying to you, that movie defeated me. I was like, Tina and I tried watching it one night, and we could not get on board. We were so confused. And then after that episode, we rewatched it, and I was like, man, this is really embarrassing that we struggled with this, because this is great.
I was looking back, and I'm like, oh, gee, did that take age badly? I'm like, that is a random film to, like, why would I have put that in, like, my top 5 films? And then I rewatched it recently. I'm like, no, I stand by that take. This is a stone cold classic.
Yeah.
Because I think the first one's cool, but I feel like they dialed the Guy Ritchie-ness of the second one up to 11.
Nice.
And I think that it's a lot wittier. It moves really, it's really propulsive. Speaking of things that have lost that, I stand by that take. I will fight anyone who says they aren't really good movies.
We're going to talk about the main reason we're here in a second, but on the subject of Guy Ritchie, have you seen 2? I don't know how many of his films you've seen, but there are 2 films of his I've watched in the last few years that blew me away. The first is The Gentleman, Have you seen that one?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Yeah.
Just the dude's still got it, man.
He
Like
does.
still, and like not even like still got it. Like he's holding on by a thread. Like arguably making better stuff than he did when he was at which is the way it should be. The career should get better. Like the gentleman, Colin Farrell in that. Colin Farrell, in that flick is so entertaining. And I think it's my favorite Charlie Hunnam performance as well.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I just feel like he's like I'm trying to think of someone who has the same. He's like the Zack Snyder of like British chav movies. You know, like I do feel like a lot of his films have the same beats in terms of like the jokes, the way things are cut. For example, like, did you ever see his King Arthur movie?
No,
Okay,
I wanted to.
Again, it's really good, but like it's cut and edited, and the dialogue is like the same as like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like I feel like he's definitely got a style that he returns to over and over again. But it's like it still hits, still works.
Yeah, I think you could also draw comparisons between him and Edgar Wright. I think there's some kind of crossover there as well. Like, I might call Edgar Wright the thinking man's Guy Ritchie, but like, which is so weird because his first movie is like a stoner zombie comedy. But like, in terms of cuts, in terms of like quippy dialogue and stuff, there's a lot of kind of crossover there as well. Except like Guy Ritchie kind of tells stories about these elite machine-like people, whereas Edgar Wright's like slobbish everyman. But it's still like, kind of the same sort of gears, All right. We are here to talk about things we're actually not going to talk about movies today, which is rare. I did something that I so uncommonly do in this last week, and I watched a TV show. And not only did I watch a TV show, Nick, I watched all 30 episodes of both seasons in a week.
To say I'm proud of you is an understatement, James.
It's and it wasn't like a sitcom. Like this is a full-blooded like HBO like 45-minute to an hour-long episode series, and it had the frustrating episode count of 15 episodes per season. And I didn't plan to. I was like, I'm going to switch on this first season. I'm going to try and just like work through a few episodes, and maybe it'll take me a week or two to get through season one. And I just devoured it. I'm talking about the Pitt. So we're going to go pretty deep into spoilers, I think, for this one. So season 2 of the Pitt's just finished, only a couple of weeks ago, I believe. So if you've been watching it and you're not caught up yet, like just heads up, spoilers. This might be my favorite TV show I've watched in over a decade. I didn't even know you liked it. I was just like, I kept seeing clips of kind of like the doctor and nurse conversation interstitials on Instagram. I'm like, what is this show? This is really fascinating. I like these characters. And I've got HBO. I'm paying for it, and we don't really use it. It's like, I'll check out it. And just from minute one, I was just sucked in. And I'm not like a medical procedural guy at all. Like, my mum watched a lot of those shows growing up, so if anything, I was kind of turned away from them. Like she watched like a lot of ER and Grey's Anatomy, and it's so funny that she watched ER because Noah Weil, who was in ER, is in this show, and he's gone on record as saying like this was meant to be a sequel series. We couldn't get the rights, so it's not a sequel series. For those who haven't seen, for the uninitiated, the Pitt follows the emergency room of this Pittsburgh hospital.
Which is a student training hospital. Is probably important.
Student training hospital. So you've got less experienced doctors handling some of the most gnarly medical cases. It's run by Doctor Robby Rabinovich, who might be like a top 10 TV character of all time for me. I just love him so much. But like every character is great in this show. And what I love about it is, first of all, as you mentioned, it's a student training hospital. So any kind of concerns you have about being like, oh, they're going to use medical terminology, they're going to talk about stuff that I don't understand, it's going to be over my head, they throw you in the muck with the students. So it's actually a really clever plot device, because then you're almost learning as they're learning. So you can kind of like tune out the stuff that doesn't make sense. It's all jargon anyway, but you still like it's such a clever idea. And then go on,
the other thing I think that is probably a good way to frame this as well is that each season of 14 or 15 episodes is one shift. So we get hour by hour episodes. And I must say, I knew about this show. Like you were saying, you've just watched it recently. I have been watching it from the start, and I was a little nervous hearing that it was going to be like that 24 model, because I'm like, oh, how are you going to develop characters if the whole season is just one day? Like, you go to work, you don't develop your character. You don't develop over the course of one day. So I was like, is this just going to be a little bit samey and a bit boring? But absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, I reckon I would agree with you. I reckon it's one of the best shows of the past 5 to 10 years because of that. It's so fresh. There's no fat. Like, there's nothing real, apart from if someone's having some personal troubles in their personal lives, we might see the flow and impact of that happening for them at work. But we don't go home with any of these characters. We don't even leave the emergency room, really.
No, I think the only time we left the emergency room was for about 5 minutes in the season finale of season 1. Because even season 2, when the credits roll, they're still in the hospital.
Yeah. So I had no history with literally any of the actors who were on the show. It's an unbelievable cast. But I never watched ER. It was like just a bit before my time, and I'd never gone back to like watch it through or anything like that. Obviously, I know that George Clooney got his start on ER, but so I didn't know who Noel Wiley was. I hadn't seen Catherine Lanassa before, though I know she.
Is that Dana?
Work. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen her in a couple of things, I think. And Noah Weil has been in a couple of like indie films. I think maybe he was in Donnie Darko or something. Or
okay.
But
I certainly didn't recognize him. And then everyone else is a relative newcomer. There's a few like famous children of famous parents in there. For example, Brad Dourif's daughter, Fiona,
Cassie McKay,
works there, as well as Bryan Cranston's daughter.
Oh, who does she play?
She's Mel King.
Oh, maybe my second favorite character.
Yeah.
I love Mel King. She's such a great character. And it's interesting, like I was talking on, which I was saying before the show, our friend Andrew from the Revisions Almanac has got a Discord thread now. I think it's private at the moment, but I think he's going to open it up. And I was like, does anyone watch The Pitt? Because I've got no one to talk to about it. And someone had talked about how they felt season 2 was a bit of a letdown because season 1, and we'll get into it, season 1 is so frantic and there's a massive event that happens towards the end of season 1. It's like, how do you top that? And after I finished watching season 2, I was like, all right, so it doesn't have the same kind of physical franticness of season 1, but I think it's making a really powerful statement about like what it means to be an emergency worker. Like, because the first one, like everyone, like you got your seasoned staff like Dana and Robbie and stuff like that, and Cassie. But then you got a lot of these student doctors, and they're kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tails, and they go some of the best and worst moments of their lives in that season. And then when we hit season 2, we're 8 months ahead, and you're kind of watching how working in an environment like that shapes them, and you're starting to see like Doctor Robby, who is pretty confident and like fearless leader for most of season 1. We do see some cracks, and obviously he's dealing with his own personal issues, but you kind of see how weathered he is even 8 months later, like kind of this inner turmoil he's dealing with. But then you look at someone like Mel King, who is, I would say, almost the heart of season 1. Like, to me, like she, like Whittaker, obviously you're quite on board with as well, but he goes through some really difficult times, whereas Mel is kind of this constant, like, kind of voice of positivity. And like the opening of season 2, she's having like, it's about to be the worst day of her life. You can tell, like, she's already like, and just watching like how being selfless and trying to do so much good can crush you, and you have to either let it crush you because you can't what is it, there's a line in season 1 and they echo it in season 2, and it feels like kind of the philosophy of the show is like you can't like get over it, but you can learn to find balance.
Mm.
And like in season 2, Mel is struggling with that. But then you've got Whittaker who has found balance. Like, and he went through the worst first day anyone can have in season 1. And in season 2, you're like, oh my God, like this guy is a mensch. Like he's the one taking people under his wing. He's this rock for people. Like he's one of the only people who has kind of cracked through the hard exterior of Santos. Like even if she won't admit it, like she does love him. Like and like he has this brilliant moment where he stands up to Langford, and Langford is this really complex character. Although like one of the few shining moments that Mel has, one of the few brightest moments is she is able to be there for him, for Langford, like on his first day back. I'm jumping all over the place, but like just because season 2 isn't as like big and showy as season 1, season 2 is doing some really fascinating and heavy lifting, and just like
it really made it. Season 1 is like, this isn't it incredible what these emergency responders do on a daily basis. Season 2 is like, this is the impact of what they do.
Yes,
particularly if they don't ask for help and if they just internalize everything. I mean, I think Robbie says right at the end of season 2, when he's kind of hitting rock bottom, he basically says like, every time someone dies in this ER, like a little bit of him dies as well.
Yeah. It trains my soul, he goes. Yeah.
Times years, that happening every day for years. I mean, this is the nature of what they do. Like people are going to die in there. So yeah, you can see that. So season 2 is very much about the toll that it takes on these people. I think.
So yes, I don't think it's an inferior season at all. It's just its journey is very different. So season 1, for those who haven't watched it, like what are they talking about? Season 1, the big pivotal moment is there's a big like festival going on in Pittsburgh called Pitt Fest or whatever, and then out of nowhere there's a mass shooting. Someone like goes down to the festival and starts killing people, and they're like, you're the closest hospital, you're no longer taking in new patients, you are a trauma kind of hospital for the victims of this shooting. And like just watching them kind of like having to kick people out and convert the ER to this kind of like trauma center. Zone. Yeah, and they're like everyone is color coded. Like if you've got like a pink code, then like I think you're okay. A red code is bad. Yellow and green are fine, and black is dead on arrival and stuff. And they're kind of like, and it's all these like student doctors first day, and they're like, what? And they're like, oh, just keep people alive. Just keep as many alive as you can. Yeah, it's thrilling. Like
it is too. I can't remember how many episodes the victims of the shooting, how many episodes that takes up with them coming through, but say it's 3. I think
it's only 2. I think it's 2. Like there's an episode ends with like there was a shooting at Pitt Fest, and then the first episode is the one where everyone's been brought in, and the second one they're kind of wrapping things up. So it's not that long, but it's the defining moment of the series. Like,
yeah, and it is just a couple of the most exhilarating hours of TV you'll ever see. It is just unbelievable the way that it's choreographed. I mean, this is a full emergency department, and where the camera's moving through, sometimes without cutting, to like these different people being treated. It's phenomenal. But I thought what would be good is just to touch on a few of the storylines that either touched us or that were interesting in season 1. And I really thought, and it hit home for me, obviously, with losing my dad, not a few years ago, about 5 years ago now, and having to go through that whole hospital situation. But I thought the adult children whose father was at the end of his life, and they were not willing to. He had a do not resuscitate wish, and they sort of were going against that because they weren't ready to let go, and brings into question, like, are you just doing this for yourselves rather than the actual person whose quality of life may be severely hampered? And I thought that was a pretty moving storyline, and a tough one to get through as well.
For sure. And, going through similar stuff, my dad's elderly now, and like I'm in a situation where I'm responsible for a lot of decision making. Like it definitely hit close to home. But there's this really beautiful moment. Again, like, which I think makes Doctor Robby such a great character. Like, there's, I don't know. I assume Noah Weil won a bunch of Emmys when he was on ER, but like the fact that this guy's not spoken about more, like he's just magnetic, like just so magnetic, and just like is exactly the character you want to be in charge. And you learn a lot about him in the kind of the final moments of season 2. But I'm jumping ahead. But he's got this beautiful moment in there where he's like kind of comforting them. Is like, look, if you don't know what to say, here there are 4 sentences that I can't remember. It comes from like a kind of a mysticism.
It's like a Hawaiian thing, proverb or something.
And it's like, thank you, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I hope you forgive me, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, I wonder how that's gonna unfold, because I'm like, in theory that sounds nice, but like, and then when the kids actually do it, you're like, oh, this is okay, like what a great teaching moment, and what a great way for them to kind of reconcile. And like his daughter, I think in particular, is the one who's kind of holding on like more than even the son. And she kind of has this really kind of wonderful monologue, and she utilizes the Hawaiian proverbs and stuff, and like kind of paints exactly why she's making these decisions, where initially as a viewer you're like, man, like I'm not even saying I get it because I haven't been in that situation, but like I know there's got to be a tough conversation to have, but at the same time, like you do have to let go at a certain point. And then when you hear a kind of monologue about it, you're like, oh, I get it now. I understand why she couldn't let go.
And I think
you go on, yeah.
I was going to say, like, the two absolutely heartbreaking ones by far for me were the young college student who, I forget what he did. He took some study drugs or something like that.
So he took they needed something to keep them awake, so they thought it was like a Xanax or something, but it was laced with fentanyl.
And so he has an accidental drug overdose.
Yeah, and
it's just so gut wrenching. His parents having to Robbie is trying to manage their, for lack of a better term, Doctor Robby, that is trying to manage their sort of expectations of what his chances of recovering is like. So he's saying, look, we can do these tests, but this is the last thing we can test.
Yeah.
If this comes back showing no results, his brain is dead. And they just want to, they're in shock. They're just like,
they refuse to accept another test. Yeah. And for the audience, like he says to, I think it's to Dana, like episodes prior, like there is no recovery. Like he has experienced brain death, and she's like, well, why don't you tell them? Is like this morning their son was alive. Like I need to like give them the illusion of hope, and it's not like from this place of cruelty. It's like they need time to process what's going on, and yes, it's a lie. But ultimately, it's a lie that's going to help them. And yeah, that one really touched me as well. Like, because the resolution of that episode, of that patient, because that's like a 5-patient arc. What a great way, by the way. Like, by doing it as one whole day or one whole shift, you get like these bit characters to really have, like, in like a Grey's Anatomy or something, like generally like you might get a couple of patients who are there for the whole season, but it's like they're kind of one and done. But this, you're literally living with them for hours because they're spending hours in the ER. So when his storyline is finally resolved, and it ends with this thing called an honor walk, where basically all the doctors and nurses stop what they're doing, like some of the patients, and there's this really heartbreaking moment where there's this college girl who also took the same drug, but she didn't have the same reaction, so she survived and he didn't. And there's this really heartbreaking moment where like the dad kind of confronts her and her friends, and they didn't even know, like they didn't even realize that he had died and stuff like that. So they participate in the honor walk as well, and it's basically like as he gets escorted from the hospital and he's going to become an organ donor, like everyone kind of stops and like gives him his moment, and they kind of like salute the parents and stuff like that. This came on the heels of, I would say, the most tragic case in the entire show, and that like this one broke me, was the drowning of like an 8-year-old girl.
That was going to be the other one I said. That was just there are no words for how traumatic. So in that one, a poor grandma is babysitting her two grandchildren, two young girls, and they get into the pool area, and obviously one of them drowns, and they're unable to revive her despite what they do, and that was just so gut wrenching, and I can only imagine what it's like watching that as a parent of a young girl as well.
Yeah, and then like later on, you find out that the only reason the older girl died, because it was the older sister who died, was because the younger daughter had fallen in the pool, and so she jumped in to save her daughter, but for her sister, and then she couldn't get out. And that was like, that destroyed me. Like, and I had the 1-2 punch in the same episode of both children dying. But as tough as that was to watch and heartbreaking was to watch, it has one of my favorite Dr. King moments, which is it's really sad, but it also like illustrates how brilliant that character is, where she comes in with like a stuffed rabbit to talk to the younger daughter, and she's like, you can't see your sister right now, but if you have anything you like to say to her, like, you can talk to the rabbit, and I'll put the rabbit on the bed. And this girl has no idea that her sister's died. And it's just this really, like, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. This beautiful moment of allowing her to talk to her sister one more time, even though that's no longer possible. And like, that's when you find out that, like, yeah, like the older sister saved and stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't realize it was Bryan Cranston's daughter, but she is, Robbie aside, because I think he's designed to be like the character everyone loves. Like, probably my favorite character. Like, Mel King is just such a great doctor. And she has that moment with the is it a man with autism or ADHD, and like Langford can't break through to him, and then like he's getting frustrated, and she kind of comes in, turns the lights off, and all this sort of thing. And then you see in the next season, Mel's sister comes in to be treated, and the first thing he does is turn the lights off. It's just like the genius of the writing, and like, he's such a tragic character. Because there's a moment, he's a more experienced doctor, and he's very very switched on, and like, people very, very respected and stuff like that. And he's generally quite kind to a lot of people, but he gives Santos quite a hard time, and everyone kind of thinks that he's picking on her. And then she discovers that he's abusing pills, stealing pills, and is responsible for him being basically like kind of kicked out of the hospital and stuff like that. And I think in any other show, you'd be like, good, I'm glad that he got kicked out. But like, I was really conflicted, like, when he got removed, and like and there's a sentence later in season 2, because even with Robbie, like, I understand why he had to kind of kick him out and stuff like that, but I'm like, yeah, but like, you needed him there, like, and like, you know, like, everyone kind of screws up, and then there's a sentence, I can't remember who says it in season 2, but one of the doctors is talking to Langford, and he's like, yeah, I don't think Robbie wanted me to be here, like, he's so disappointed in me. And she's like, I was here every day with him while you weren't. And Robbie isn't disappointed in you. He's disappointed in himself for letting you down. It's just like, oh my God, like, what a beautiful show this is. Like, so those definitely stand out for me. I would also say the very first incident you see in the show is a woman is brought in, and she was pushed onto the train tracks, and her leg is what they refer to as degloved, which is such a gory, like, opening to the series, but it really sets the tone for what you're about to get into. Like, if you're not good with that, like, switch it off now.
This show is gnarly in the sense of, like, it pulls no punches with whoever does the set and the prop design for the injuries that are shown in graphic detail is doing God's work, but it is gnarly from an emotional point of view. It pulls no punches, and likewise with what you're going to see. So it's definitely it's definitely not for the faint-hearted, I would say.
Yeah. That whole case is great as well, because then there's the guy who saved her, and like they're having a lot of trouble with her because she's not born in America, she's not a native English speaker, and they can't figure out where she's from. But there's a moment where, like, her bed crosses his bed, like, through the halls, and they kind of stop to give them a moment because he's the guy that saved her. And like, even that's like, such a beautiful moment. it's man, like it's just like a perfect show. It just like I'm kind of in a position where I'm like I immediately want to rewatch it. I just want to go back and go through it again. Like the characters are so good. Whitaker, we haven't talked about him. Like he's this farm boy, this Huckleberry, as Santos keeps calling him.
Yeah.
Who's kind of from the sticks and has like the worst luck in the first season because like he's the first character to lose a patient. And he's partially responsible. Like he's responsible for it because he misdiagnoses, and that's when you get that great moment from Robbie, where he's like, "You don't get over it. You learn to find balance and stuff like that." And then he's like kind of this rock star surgeon, like this rock star doctor in the second season. Like not because he's like super well respected and cool, but just like he's gone through, he's paid his dues. He's like now he's learnt more than most because he had the tough day the first time. He's a great character as well. Like I love him.
And he's sort of, I guess it's implied, is starting to get together with the wife of one of the patients from the first season.
Yeah, so there's a guy that comes in with like third-degree burns all across his body.
Like 90% of his body.
And it's one of those ones where you're like, oh, they're going to save him. And like often like in like another room, like they're like, oh, he had like a 5% chance of survival.
Yeah.
Like he will be dead before the end of the day. But because she's from like a farm and he's from a farm, he's like, well, you know, I'll come and help you out for a little bit. They've got like she's pregnant at the time, and yeah, it's not really kind of. You don't know if there's a romantic relationship because you're only looking at one day. You don't know whether there's a romantic relationship or whether he just kind of feels this kind of guilt. But they're also, by the end of season 2, kind of setting him up to be the next Robbie, where it's like he's going to be the guy that cares too much and he's going to burn out and kind of be in like 10 years' time, be the man that Robbie is at the end of season 2, which is like, I don't know what I want anymore. I don't know where I want to be. I thought for sure at the end of season 1, one of the very last things you see at the end of season 1 is Whitaker like kind of goes, he's leaving and he kind of goes this weird direction. Santos knows, so she follows him, and it turns out he's been like living in like a vacant ward, like he's just because he couldn't afford rent and stuff like that. I thought for sure they were going to hook up. I was like, because there's this weird power dynamic between the two of them. I was like, oh my God, like she teases him, but she's crushing on him. And then of course it's revealed in season 2 that she's into that surgeon lady and stuff like that.
But I would recommend, like obviously everyone's busy, but if you do find time to go back and watch season 1, because I did do that in the lead up to season 2. And what's really brilliant is, particularly now you know that, so Langdon, I think you've called him Langford a couple of times. I think it's
I don't call him Langford, Langdon. Yeah, sorry.
Frank Langdon.
There's a lot of names. There's a lot of characters in that show.
He's got a back injury, and I think that's how he got medicated for that back injury. And I think it's a common story over in the US with the way they give out those addictive pain-killing drugs. He got hooked on it, and so that's the background to why he steals drugs from the hospital. But like, watch that season, you'll notice like at times he's like sweaty, other times he's like up and in like a euphoric type mood. And when you don't know the context there, you don't pick it up. But it really is interesting to see that when you know what's going on with him.
For sure.
And then season 1, we talked about that ends with the mass casualty shooting. And that does take up the sort of the back third of it. And then, what is it? Fast forward 8 months.
Yeah. Well, before we get to season 2, I just want to that you have that moment where Robbie is trying to save, like all season, he's been like, call it, like he's very much like he gives them enough time, but he knows when people are dead. He's like, I'm gonna let you keep trying to save them because I know you need this. But like he's very kind of methodical. And then there's that moment where his like stepson or ex's son, like they're not biologically kind of related, but they've got a really good relationship, comes in with his girlfriend. His girlfriend gets shot through the heart. Like he basically says like a bullet tore through her heart. There was no way. And like he spends, I would say, 30% of the episode like with her trying to save her. And it basically in that moment destroys his relationship with this kid. He's a kind of like his kind of son because he's like, you save people all the time, why couldn't you save her? And like, that's when we kind of see the trauma. I guess one thing we didn't talk about as well is that season 1 is set on like the anniversary of the death of Robbie's mentor. So like all through the season, you kind of see him having flashbacks and like kind of struggling to navigate the day. And it's done deliberately because he's obviously so cool and like, not cool as in like a rock star, but he is cool. But also he's very like methodical and calm, and like there's a reason he runs the ER. But you need him to have some trauma so you can kind of give him some like somewhere to go as well. And that whole like kind of end part you see, and then you get that beautiful moment with Whittaker in the parents' room with him, where like Robbie's just kind of had this panic attack and this meltdown, and he's like, you help me today, let me help you, let all of us help you, and stuff like that. Like, it's just so beautiful. But yeah, sorry. So season 2 is 8 months later, I think, if I remember correctly.
And the tone is set really early on with the theme of this season, which, as we sort of talked about, is much less about like, look at the varied and crazy cases that come through, and very much about the impact on the staff. It's much more of a character-based season than an event-based season. And we start with Robbie riding into work in the morning on a motorbike with no helmet on.
Yeah.
And that kind of sets the tone. It's brought up a lot by people who mention he's got a death wish, but he really does. It's a very different Robbie from the first season, because the first season he's so caring. Like we talked about how he supports the two people who have to let their dad go with that Hawaiian proverb, and the way he supports the parents who are losing their children. And he's a lot more callous. He's a lot more.
The patience is gone. He's not patient with people. There's literally a moment where it's like, you want my advice? Tell her next time to jump higher. Like, you're like, whoa, jeez.
Yeah.
In front of like the mental health specialist as well. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to think. There's also
season 2 has the I think you're meant to think that like in season 1 where there was this big event, there was this big traumatic event, which was the shooting at Pitt Fest. Season 2 has a similar type hospital in the area has been hacked.
Yes, which we don't know for a long time. We know there's an event that's caused the hospital to shut down, and and then a second hospital gets shut down, and all the patients are being diverted. It's also the hottest day of the year. That's a big part of it as well.
I think it's July. It's July 4th.
Yes, it's 4th of July. That's right. Yeah.
And so, not only are they getting other hospitals' patients routed to them, but the hospital CEO or the general manager makes a decision to shut down all of their computer systems to protect their data, which means basically for half the season, everything is analog, like everything's charted on paper, notes are taken on paper. So it's just a lot more chaotic. But that's kind of it as in terms of like the big events. There's not really.
There's a water slide collapse towards the end, and there's the girl. Like, remember the woman like loses her leg? Like at one point, like they're just holding onto her leg. Like, and she looks so she goes, "Is that mine?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I agree. There's less big events, and I think it's smart because the first one, it's like, how do you follow that up? Like, because you don't want like the only option. I think in most cases would be to escalate, and once you do that, it no longer becomes the show that it was. Like, it's trying to outdo itself. There are, what was I going to say? There are a couple of other things. We've got some new characters. We didn't talk about a few characters. Obviously, Dr. Javadi, who is like this kind of like savant prodigy doctor who both her parents are like surgeons and like really well known in the community, and she kind of feels the pressure of that. There's Dr.
Samira Mohan.
Yeah, who's great. She's really good. She has the unfortunate nickname of Slow Mo in the first season.
Yeah, but then when she starts to do better with her throughput, Dr. Robby goes, slow mo, no mo.
Yeah. There's also, I don't think she shows up in the second season, but there's like the hospital administrator who's like, you need to get your satisfaction scores up, and she's deliberately kind of planted as an antagonist for Robbie, and you're like, oh man, like I hate this person. But then even she gets her wonderful moment like after the shooting and stuff like that. Season 2 brings us, I'm trying to think if there's something I want to talk about, and I feel there's one more thing I want to talk about because this sets up season 2. There's a patient a really frustrating patient in season 1. These two parents who have a son who the only way to kind of diagnose what's wrong with him is to go through a spinal tap. But they're like social media medical parents who like anti-vaxxers and stuff like that. And ultimately, the dad goes behind their back and is like, just do it. Like, if it's going to save his life, just do it. And then we find out, set up very early on in season 2, that the reason why Mel King is in such a bad mood is that she's being sued for the first time, which apparently is very common. They're like, everyone gets sued, everyone gets deposed, don't worry. And it's the mother from the first season who didn't want the spinal tap, even though her husband approved it. And like, we find out that the son's condition got worse, and she's trying to blame the spinal tap, but it's because they waited too long to operate and stuff like that. So that's just a little bit of important setup. But sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say a couple of characters we didn't mention. So in season 1 was Heather Collins, who is I don't quite understand the levels of the hierarchy here, but Doctor Robby is the attending physician, and it's his ED, so he's in charge. He's like responsible for all the patients. And then underneath that, you have Collins, who she's there in season 1, and then you have Langdon, and they're they the attend? No, they're not the attending, but they're basically, if Doctor Robby is level 1, they're level 2,
and you got Abbott as well,
the goat.
Yeah,
I hadn't got around to mentioning Abbott, but Abbott is basically the night shift version of Robby. So he's in charge of the ED for the night shift. And like, am I the only one who's craving like a night shift spin-off here?
I mean, maybe that's what they'll do with season 3. Like, maybe that's how you make it different. Like, but I want Robby in there. Like, you got to have,
So I think that's most of the people we've mentioned. But then season 2,
you've got Mateo, who's the nurse, who's was absent for a big part of season 2, but does come up towards the end. Because I was like, where? Because the interesting thing about it is, because it all takes place on one day, it can just be someone's day off and they don't show up the entire season. But Collins moves away, we find out. There's also, we mentioned her briefly, but Dana is a huge part of. Like, she's the mother hen. She's the one who's with all the nurses.
So she's the I don't know. She's the charge nurse. So basically, Robby is responsible from the patients from a health and medicine perspective. She's the equivalent from the nursing perspective. So all discharges and what's it called when you go into discharge when you leave? Admissions, they sort of go through her. So she's sort of in charge. So they are basically the mum and dad of the ED.
Yeah. And they've got a great rapport in season 1. Season 2, there's obviously a bit of a wedge going. But also, like, there's this moment where there's this ongoing storyline with this patient in season 1 who just wants to be admitted, and he keeps getting increasingly frustrated, and he ends up punching Dana in the face. And she's like, I'm done, I'm not coming back. And like, it's heartbreaking because, first of all, no one should get physically abused when they're providing care. But also, you're like, but she is the rock of the ER. Like, Robbie's the dad who like guides everyone, but she's the one who supports everyone. And you're like, this place, more so than Robby, will fall if she's gone. At the end of season 1, you really don't know what's going to happen. Then for season 2, you find out she did quit, but she came back like a week later. Like she's married to the job. But she's also a lot tougher. Like, she's tough in season 1, but season 2, she's also like Robby, like a different character. She's like far more no nonsense. She won't let any, like, you know, there's a new charge nurse in training. I can't remember her name. But she gets accosted at one point, like, and Dana had this syringe in her pocket and jabbed him with it or whatever, which becomes this kind of plot point later on. But like, she's like, I'm not messing around anymore. She's like, I'm the charge nurse Avenger. I'm protecting all my staff. So season 2 is somehow darker than the one with the mass shooting. Like,
So Robby's plan, as we come into season 2, it's his final day before he's going on a 2-month sabbatical motorcycle trip up to Canada or something like that. And so we get his replacement for that 2-month period, a Dr.
Al-Hashimi. Hashimi, that's it,
Yeah. who is like an AI loving doctor. She's like, for the first few episodes, I think it's the writing's a little bit ham-fisted there, but she's really championing AI scribing tools, and
she's very progressive and wants to move with the times and wants to change the ER. Like, even though we don't see the administrator in this season at all, she's referred to, and like Robbie kind of gets annoyed by it because she's become very friendly with her already. But she's very much like, this place is chaos. Like, we need to organize it. Santos doesn't like her because Santos keeps getting pulled up for like being behind on her notes and stuff like that. We also get a couple of new student doctors. There's Dr. Joy, and Dr. Ogilvy, who both are infuriating for me. Like, for the first half of the season, Dr. Joy grows on me. Ogilvy never really grows on me, but he does get humbled multiple times.
Yeah.
Because he kind of competes with Javadi, and even though I'm not a huge like, there's a couple of moments in season 2 with Javadi where she's doing like these online videos. She calls herself Dr. J and stuff like that, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But then even that, like, you just got to trust the process of this show, because I knew with Hashimi, I'm like, I don't like her, but I know by the end of the season I'm going to really like her. And I figured that was going to be the same with all these other characters as well. But like, you just got to trust the process of the show. Like, they're going to win you over.
Yeah.
You just got to let them do their weird stuff, and they'll get there. But yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah, like, there's a whole idea of like this technology embracing kind of like replacement. And then of course there's the cyber attack. So like, I think Robbie's like, how's your AI going to handle this or whatever?
Yeah.
And Santos is like, yeah.
But we essentially follow, and I do think that the first season is more of an ensemble piece led by Noah Wiley as Dr. Robby. The second season follows Dr. Robby, and the other parts are peripheral, I think. The arc of the season really follows him from this being his last day before a sabbatical to basically him losing that touch from the first season. Well, he's losing it. He's more and more abrupt. He's less caring, to the point where we find out that does have a bit of a death wish. There's a real emotional scene at the end where he's saying, he basically says every good thing that he's done has been in this hospital, and I'm paraphrasing here, basically the reason he can't let go of it is because he just has nothing else outside of the hospital, and even the hospital is killing him now. And he says to his friend Duke, who's a patient, Robbie wants him to come in and get some things checked out. So that's how he's in this season. And he basically says, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. And he says, I don't know if I want to be anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
Which is such a heartbreaking thing to hear a character we love say.
Yeah. And I will say, even though he's definitely dropped, like, he's definitely like a lot harsher and more abrasive in this season, I didn't find myself loving him any less. Like, if anything, I was like, this is the guy who took care of everyone on their worst day. And now, like, you just found like no one was really giving him any grace, so, like, except for Whittaker when he has that moment. Like, he kind of, like, you get to see like the student become the master and stuff like that. But we should also say so Langdon, is that his name? Not Langford, it's Langdon.
Yeah.
It's Langdon's first day back after rehab. He's been on like an 8-month rehab course, and he's really nervous about coming back. And you're like, well, hopefully, like, he'll manage to mend things with Robbie. And every single moment that they share, Robbie just like dismisses it. He just has no time for it. And it's, again, we have that moment later on where we find out that he's disappointed in himself and not being able to pick up on it and help him. But there's this beautiful moment. I'm jumping ahead because I just realized what time it is. We're going to be have to wrap things up in a moment, I think, because we're going for almost 2 hours. Where a patient comes in and they've got a neck injury, and basically the idea is if they wait to get neurosurgery in, it's going to be too long and he's going to be paralyzed. There's an experimental procedure that Langdon witnessed once and no one else has ever seen done. He can try it, but the odds of it working are probably going to leave him paralyzed. But it's like, if we do this, you'll get paralyzed. If we don't do this, you'll get paralyzed. If I have 1% luck, you'll survive. And Robby, and this is like episode 15 or 16, Robbie's like, I haven't seen it done, do it. Like, it's like this first like glimmer of hope, like, I'm going to trust the guy I didn't trust in my ER for all this time. And he saves him, like this experimental procedure. And like, you're like, oh good, this is going to be it. They're going to be friends again. Nope. They're not friends. Like, it just, like in true, like...
You were a bit light on the detail there. Not only does he save him, it involves him, like, basically, he grabs him by the head.
By the head, yeah.
And, like, pulls his head up and then kind of, like, to the side.
Yeah.
To decompress the spine or something like that.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's just so, like, there's not a character I dislike. Like, I know, like with Game of Thrones, for example, like we referenced that before, especially towards the later seasons, there would be times where they jump to a storyline. I'm like, no, like, go back to the other one. Like, I want to go back to this. Like, I was never disappointed when they jumped to someone else. Like, I was fascinated by all their stories. I wanted to know each character is different enough and interesting enough where it doesn't matter which thread they pull. Like, obviously there are certain ones I was more like, you know, I was really emotionally invested in the Langdon Robby storyline of season 2. I wanted them to make amends. I wanted them to kind of be friends again. And they don't do that. There's actually a really great moment where Langdon kind of takes a cue from Whittaker, because there's a moment like where him and Whittaker are in like the break room and he's like making all these quips and Whittaker's like, can you stop? He's like, can you just stop it? He's like, I don't care if you like want to make fun of me or whatever. He's like, but don't decide who I get to be. Like, he's like, stop it. And like, it's this amazing moment because like, and it's because Langdon is so uncomfortable. He's kind of relying on kind of almost like schoolyard techniques where he's like, I'm just going to like be a bit jokey and silly until I can, you know, I can find my footing. And Whittaker calls him on it. And it's this brilliant like moment where Whittaker where he stands up for himself. And then when Robby finally makes the time to talk to Langdon, you're like, oh, they're going to be friends. They're going to make amends. And he's like, you know, all this time I was worried about coming back and you haven't made time for me all day and you don't want me here. He's like, but if you start to think about the like kind of what you're doing to yourself and like how you're ignoring your own care and all this sort of thing. And like this, like it's this brilliant like kind of mirror scene to what had just happened moments earlier. And it's like, it's the tough love that Robby needed. And like, I think at the time we didn't even know he needed. Like, I don't know. I was like, oh yeah, he needs this tough love. It's
he basically says, he says something like, I see guys like you all the time in rehab.
Yeah.
The only difference between you and them is that they've admitted that they need help, which is quite poignant.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get Dr. Al Hashimi, and quite early in the season, something weird happens with her where they're treating a baby, baby Jane Doe. And she kind of just zones out mid-sentence, and you're unsure. It's definitely it's written to be noticed. Everyone's kind of like, what's going on here? Because she just kind of freezes.
What did you think it was? Because obviously they reveal it towards the end. In that moment, did you have a theory?
I thought it was a trauma response. I thought maybe it was she had lost a child or something like that.
Yeah.
And it happens once more where she kind of zones out, and what it turns out is she had meningitis or something like that as a child, which led to seizures, which are not obvious. They're not obvious seizures. It's just she's not sort of shaking or anything like that. She's just
she goes, no one notices it. People just think that I'm thoughtful.
Yeah,
because it's not like it doesn't display the way a seizure normally does with kind of shaking and eyes rolling back. She just pauses.
And she'd been medicated for this, and she hadn't had a seizure in years. But I guess the stress of working of running the ER had triggered that, and so Robby finds out, and that's another reason he's like, you shouldn't be in charge. And he's it's harsh, but he's kind of right. I mean, it's such a high risk, high acuity workplace. I don't know if you can have someone who performing life-saving surgery can zone out for 15 seconds.
She even says, she goes, it's only 5 seconds, and he goes, but she goes, if it happens, another attending can step in, and he goes, but what if the other attendings are busy and it takes less than 5 seconds to save someone's life? And you're like, man, these are some harsh truths, but
Yeah.
and like you feel for her because by this point you've warmed up to her and you do like her and you're like, and she's got that moment where she's about to drive. He's like, "You drive?" And she's like, "It hadn't happened in a year or whatever it was." And then you see her go to drive home, and she basically just goes like, and we don't know what happens. She just kind of stops the car, and that's the last time we see her because she just kind of breaks down. Man, it's just. I didn't think I could like a TV show this much, and and I love TV, but it's just like it's so rare to find something you want to invest that much time in. It's one of the reasons why I don't watch a lot of TV anymore because I find after a while I'm just like I just rather like watch a self-contained movie, that sort of thing. But it's just a perfect show for me.
Yeah. The final thing I'll say, which I really like as a storytelling mechanism, is that we sort of start the season with the day crew starting. So we kind of get crossover with the night shift. And we talked a little bit about Dr. Jack Abbott, who is just, again, one of the coolest characters I've seen on TV in years.
Do you know who that actor is? Did you ever watch a movie from the 90s called The Faculty?
Yeah, with Elijah Wood.
So he's the football player, Stan.
Oh, is he? I haven't seen it recently enough to even. I wouldn't be able to recognize.
He's
him
the jock kid from The Faculty. When I saw him, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the kid from The Faculty. Like,
wow.
And I'm sure he's done dozens of things since then. But it's literally like I saw him as a teenager. I blinked, and he's running the ER.
And there's Dr. Shen.
Who was he wasn't an attending in season 1, but in the 8 months that's passed, he's now an attending.
Yeah.
But when you meet him in season 1, you're kind of like, he's cracking all these jokes as they're admitting all these people from this mass shooting, and it's very off. Where everyone's
is this guy going to crumble basically? Because he walks in with like one of those massive Dunkin' Donut coffee kind of things, and you just think, is he going to be able to cope? But he's pretty cool under pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would, and then we obviously, towards the end of the season, which is the end of the shift, the night shift take back over. So you kind of get them in it again. So I love that as a plot device, and I would dearly love a spin-off.
Yeah. I going back to season 1, I'll talk about 2 more things and then we'll start wrapping up. But season 1, the symmetry of the episode opening with Robbie finding Abbott on the roof, and then at the end of the night, Abbott finding Robbie on the roof, like just this weird dark symmetry, but like the idea of like it's just so like there's no way to like the ER feels like it's at the they call it the pit, like, and the only way to escape it is to literally stand on the roof of the building to get away from it, which they do in season 2 because all the staff go up and watch the fireworks on the roof and it's like escaping the pit. And there's a really interesting moment in season 2 which they took a moment to kind of point out where there's some, not malpractice, but some poor practice by a couple of, I think it's paramedics, where a woman had a heart attack, but they missed it because they didn't want to take her bra off. They were so afraid of a sexual harassment suit, they just did the EKG wrong. And like Robbie has this great speech where he's like, all the women in here, just quickly, would you rather someone see your boobs or survive a life-threatening illness? And he goes, oh, there you go, that's weird. They'd rather survive. Like, just do it. But it was such weird. It's not like it's a serious moment, but also this weird moment of levity in a very kind of dark season. Before we get out of here, do you have a couple of do you have favorite characters, or are they all pretty much on equal standing for you?
I don't know what it says about me, but I just love Frank Langdon.
Yeah, I do too.
I think I really like the way the actor, his name is Patrick Ball, he plays this character, which is like, there's a lot of empathy that he brings out and good intentions, but if you look at what he does on it, like you look at his stat sheet, he steals, he lies about it, he essentially tries to get rid of Trinity Santos by claiming that she's not up to it, saying to Robbie she's not really up to it. And then in season 2, when he's going through the steps of his recovery program where needs to apologize to people. His apology is sort of like a straw man apology. Like, it's not really a full acquittal of everything he did. He sort of said to her, look, I'm sorry I made your first day here really hard. And it's like, well, you did, but you did a lot more than that. So on paper, like, he shouldn't be a likable character, and he's done some awful things, but I think just the way that the guy plays him, and I think he is a fan favorite, which is probably why he's back on the show.
I think I agree with you, because I really like him as well. I think the reason it works is that Santos was really abrasive in season 1 as well. Like, she calls like Javadi Crash, that she calls like Whittaker Huckabee, and like makes fun of him after losing a patient and stuff like that. So she's quite brash as well, and we do see some really tender, genuine moments between Langdon and Mel King and Whittaker. Like, he kind of really takes them under his wing. So I think that earns him a lot of good fortune. So then when we see him in season 2, he's quite vulnerable. Like, he's in a very vulnerable position. So I think that's kind of why, because I agree with you, like, on paper, you're like, what a scumbag. But like, he is shockingly likable despite the bad things he's done. Yeah, I really like him. Obviously, Robby. I was talking about this in that Discord group, and everyone was like, "You can't include him because everyone loves him." Like, it's like you have to do your top 3 characters, not including Robby. But particularly in season 1, Cassie McKay, I really like. I feel like she has a little bit less to do in season 2. She's going through because she has this great moment. I think this is the first clip I saw of the show that made me interested, where she's wearing an ankle monitor in season 1. Like, we don't really know why, but she's basically, I think she's got her ex-husband's got a restraining order against her. But then during the shooting, like the fallout, it won't stop beeping. It's faulty, and it's like, you need to answer this phone call because the cops are going to come. And she takes a drill to it and destroys it so she can save people's lives. And then like they try to arrest her like later on, and then like Robby kind of like works his magic and keeps her on and stuff like that. But she's a really great character. Mel King, I've talked about a lot. I just think it's such a special breed of character who's just like, they talk about how she's far too sensitive for the ER, but like everyone says it. Like Robby says it, Langdon says it, a bunch of people say it, but like they need that sensitivity in there. And then she's got this really fascinating storyline we didn't touch on in season 2, where like her sister comes into the ER and she's got a UTI, and her sister's got autism, if I remember correctly. And so she's kind of responsible for her medically and financially, and like takes care of all these things. And she finds out that her sister's having sex, and she doesn't know how to process it. She's like, well, her parents should have asked me permission. Like, she has this kind of weird breakdown. And they don't talk about it, and I don't know whether it's designed this way, but I kind of got the feeling that Mel is also on the spectrum. Like, they never say it. Like, it's never like kind of said, but I kind of get the feeling the way she presents herself, kind of some of the tics she has, it almost feels like she's also on the spectrum.
That was my understanding too.
Yeah. Like, they don't kind of bring any attention to it, but it kind of feels the way it's presented. She's also, but just a wonderful character. Whittaker, wonderful. Dana obviously is just like everyone's heart.
I suppose, a quick shout out to Princess and Perla, who are like
Princess and Perla are great. 2
of the nurses, and they're like they're probably like as close to comedic relief that we get. Yeah.
And Louis, the patient Louis, who's got a big plot point in season 1 and then passes away in season 2, that's probably the most heartbreaking one, I think, in season 2. And then what's the guy? Is it Digby, the homeless dude? Is that Stinky Pete or whatever his name is?
Skinny Pete.
Skinny Pete.
Pete. It is from Breaking Bad.
Yeah. He just always plays like just horrible looking drunk.
When his cast came off, that was a real special moment.
That was gross. I could talk about this show for hours, but we've been talking about it for over an hour as it is. So we'll probably have to wrap. Well, if you don't like The Pitt, you probably won't like this episode. But if you haven't watched The Pitt, hopefully, like, we've encouraged you to check it out.
Because it's not like House, MD, or other medical procedures where like you can really spoil it. Like the show doesn't hinge on whether a patient lives or dies or is treated, so I don't even think listening to us talk about the cases and how the outcome of them really would impact a watch of this show that much anyway. It's really more about the characters, and it's got, even though it's gnarly there's a comfort in the fact that it's just set in an ER because you become really familiar with it. And it's the same as like when you watch Friends or The Office or Seinfeld, and you just get that warm and fuzzy feeling when you see the reception desk in The Office or Jerry's apartment in Seinfeld. Like it becomes a comfort show, even though it's freaking crazy.
I will say, because you're right, it is gnarly, and there's some pretty brutal stuff. Like as we said, there's a woman who got her leg cut, like fell off, and like there's lots of degloving. There's the rope through the hand. Oh. But I will say the one that messed me up the most, and maybe this like says a lot about me as a person, and as a man particularly, but the one that really kind of messed me up, I think, the most was when the baby got stuck. So there's a birth scene. And, like, they show it, like, and it's obviously prosthetics. Like, you're not seeing a real baby coming out of a real vagina. But, like, it is as graphic as they could. Like, I have to imagine that everything they do in that show is medically accurate. Both of my children were born of cesarean, so I didn't witness that style of childbirth. So I haven't seen that happen. So watching that, I was like, oh, that's... And I've seen childbirth before. I think even like Amelie, I've seen childbirth footage and stuff before. But the baby gets stuck and everyone's like numbers start crashing. So like we can take them up to surgery, but we could lose them. And then, so Robbie puts his whole hand inside this woman's vagina to get the baby out. And it's like, just knowing like how much stretching is going on in there. Like that was the thing that I was like, because I know like obviously like without getting too graphic, like if you've done any medical research about childbirth, like there's this thing called the episiotomy, there are things they do to make childbirth easier. There's none of that. It's just, I'm going to put my hand in now. And like, there's already a human coming out of it. That to me, I think was like, the one was like, that one's like the one that really messed with me, I think. Yeah, wasn't expecting that. That wasn't on my bingo card for TV this year. Yeah. What a show.
There's, maybe the equivalent one in season 2 was that guy who took too many Viagra and then they had to
that's right, that's a jam.
Manually take blood out of his dick.
Oh. Yeah.
Not good.
At least he's unconscious. I forgot that you saw it as well, like at one point. And like Santos is cracking jokes the whole time. Like, she really grew on me in season 2. I really like Santos in season 2, yeah. I think that's gonna do it. Go and watch The Pitt. Like, you don't have to watch 2 seasons in a week like I did, but you'll want to. It's that good. It is the best show on TV right now, I think. As much as I'm loving Daredevil, and we'll talk about that another time, but I think The Pitt is the best thing. The worst thing about The Pitt is we have to wait till January 2027 for season 3. But what a great show. How much fun. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Go and watch it. Go and listen to all of our other wonderful episodes, and we'll be back next week. But until then, that's it from us here at Film Snob HQ, where it's film night every night, or movie night every night. I can't remember how the show ends anymore. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Done.